Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Now today we're going to take a look again at the HD7950 and mostly at the scores I made with it because, well, I've pushed it some more. I did upload that short video about me breaking the ambient cooling record for 3D Mark Firestrike. I did now push that score about 100 points higher, and I've also made some more scores with the card. Among other things, I took the actual just first place / world record for 3D Mark Vantage Extreme, though there's only 4 people competing there, so I guess that's why. And then I ran a lot of 3D Mark 11, where I also got some nice... yeah, I got a 3rd place, and I don't know... No, I got a 2nd place, I think. We're gonna take a look at the scores. So first I just wanted to show the card. It is still pretty much stock. Like, there's nothing really changed. I did solo this one multi-layer ceramics to the back because there's one broken off. I broke that off basically when I got the card long before I ever ran it. So I just put that back on because I don't know. But apart from that, the card is pretty much unmodified. And I do want to mod it. It's just that, well, it's probably not gonna do much, because you can see the output filter for the core is already very substantial on this card. Like, that is pretty good. I don't think I can add much to that. And then for the memory, these 2 gigabit Hynix MFR modules that I have on here, they do not scale with voltage, and they have negative code scaling. So basically what I saw happen is they just don't care about changes in voltage. Maximum clock didn't change from 1.6 volts to 1.7 volts. That didn't change when I went from 1.6 to 1.5 volts. It was just like there was no change. What did change is when you turn the card on for the first time and you do a first couple benchmark runs, the memory has difficulty running 1700 megahertz. And then after a few minutes, when you've had a few runs and the memory chips get warmer, then they do 1740, which is the maximum I got out of this. So yeah, basically these get better when they're hot, therefore negative code scaling. I actually got the best out of them by just removing the cooling fan. Like, I have 2 fans, one for the left side, one for the right side of the card. I removed the one on the left side, and the one on the right side I positioned in such a way it would only cool the VRM and not these memory chips here. And that's how I got the, reliably the best, the highest memory frequency on this. I hit that frequency before, but it was less reliable because I still had a fan on the memory back then. But yeah, just removing the fan made the memory more reliable. So yeah, because there's no voltage scaling on this, I don't think cap modding memory will do much. It might change a little bit because there's only a single phase down here powering the memory, which means this is probably gonna have a lot of voltage ripple and the transient response is probably gonna be trash. So adding more capacitors might help with that, but I don't know if that's even an issue because, like, I ran this at 100 millivolts less than stock and it didn't lose any clock speed. What it might help with is just that the memory VRM is over here, and then the last memory chip over here is like, it has to go like around the core. This one is going to have significantly less voltage than memory chips in this region. So it would help equalizing the voltage a bit, but I don't think that's going to do much. Like, basically the only use that voltage has on this card is just, I set it just to 1.7 volts because that heats up the memory chips more. And then when they're warmer, they clock better. That's like indirect voltage scaling. It's not voltage scaling as I would understand it. So yeah. And then for the core, I mean, yeah, the output filter should be good enough. I'm still gonna put some capacitors on just for the hell of it, but I don't think I will achieve much. And yeah, so basically the biggest limitation right now is actually just voltage range. Like I have the EVC2 SX header right here. I just plug the EVC2 in and then get control of the CHA-A228G, which is controlling core and memory voltage. The problem though is that on this card there is a lock for maximum voltage, so I can't go over 1.38 for core and I can't go over 1.71 for memory. And I think that's actually a limitation, because I was running the card last night. I rearranged my stuff a bit so that my test bench is now right next to the window, which means that I can just open the window and put the radiator right inside of it to suck in cold air from outside, basically. My outside temp, according to Google, went down to 7 degrees. And I saw about load temperatures on this in the low to mid 20s. So I wouldn't call this chilled water yet. Chilled would be like 5 degrees or less under load, in my opinion. But this is definitely colder than standard ambient. And yeah, so I was able to push the core some more. I got it to 1355. And that's where it basically stopped. And I think I could have gotten more out of it if I just had more voltage range on the core. Because while at normal ambient, 1.3 volts is basically everything you need. When I got cold, I saw that, okay, the cold is helping a bit with core clocks. But what's actually happening is that now the core just scales more with voltage when it's colder. And I maxed out that voltage range on the core pretty quickly. And I think if I had more, I could have gotten, more clocks out of it. Like the 7970 matrix gained a little bit of extra stability all the way to 1.475 volts. That's a pretty big difference to what I can achieve on this. So I could have maybe gotten a 1360 or 1370 even stable, and that it wouldn't have helped me in the Firestrike ranking, but it could have brought me a one position up in the 3D Mark 11 rankings. But yeah, I already had some really good scores with this before, but I decided to rerun it anyway, and did end up getting better scores. So if I can get even more out of this, I guess I'm gonna run it again at some point. So yeah, and in terms of VDDCI, I can control that controller with the EVC. I could just hard mod it, but I don't actually know if adjusting VDDCI on a Tahiti is actually helpful. I don't know, like I've heard that on 7770s with, what's that core called again? It's not Bonaire, it's not Pitcairn, it's the other one. Yeah, I can't think of it right now. Like that core apparently, you can get more memory stability when you raise VDDCI. So yeah, that might be on the table, but I don't think it is. I've not really heard about raising VDDCI on Tahiti-based cards. But maybe it will help. Then the last thing, the mounting on this. I think this mount is kinda crap, and it's pretty much the same I had in the run before. The die on this is actually pretty flat. Like, the way I determine the flatness of a die is just I polish it up and I look into the reflection of a straight line object, like a window frame, and then I tilt the card slightly and look at the reflection. And if your die is not perfectly flat, then you will see that warp a bit. This one is pretty flat. This is one of the flattest ones I have. Other than the Matrix. The Matrix has basically a mountain in the middle. It's really not flat. This one is just very, very slightly lower in the middle than it is on the outside, which is weird because the best contact I actually have towards the middle. Like the thermal paste is pretty consistent. There's like no spots that are much worse, but ideally you would want to see no thermal paste covered on the die at all. Like basically you would want contact like in the upper section here on the entire die, but I just got this thin full cover film of thermal paste on the rest of the die. Admittedly it's very consistent, but I think I can do better than this. So yeah, and I think we're gonna take a look at the scores uploaded to HWBot now, and yeah, let's just get to that. So here we are on HWBot, and you can kind of see from the activity feed I've been busy a bit. So yeah, so this is the old Firestrike score, 11.816. You can see it's no longer in the ranking because the better one is now the official one. And basically, if you look at that, I was running 1330 core, 1740 mem. And if you now look at the new one, which is 11.918. So yeah, it's just about 100 points more. You see I'm running 1355 core, still same on mem. Because like there's no cold or voltage scaling, as I've said. So memory is pretty much maxed at 1740. But the core with the extra cold, like you can see it's 22 degrees here, it's 34 here. So it's colder, though nowhere near chilled, in my opinion at least, which like, I set it as water. And I don't know why it says 7950 matrix. It's not, it's an XFX card. I think this is there because I said repopulate the specifics of the score from my 7970 matrix submission, so I guess it just kind of kept the matrix in there. But yeah, like I don't know why that is there. But yeah, so still third because second in place is running chilled at basically 100 megahertz core more than I am, and first is Buildzoid on dry ice, so I can't really get there. But yeah, so that's a decent score increase. About 150 points GPU score, and then my CPU is also very slightly higher. I mean, yeah, nice increase. Basically just the core, what it can do if I take a code. You can also kind of see VDDC I mean reads 1.35. Here it reads, oh wait, never mind, here it's 1.377. Okay, I don't know what's about that. This reading could also be wrong. But like 1330, the card can run at 1.3 volts set in EVC, which is like 1.27 get on the load. It can do that. It cannot do this. It needs the full voltage range for this and cold ambient. But yeah, I mean, those 25 megahertz core are worth something. Now we get into the other scores I've made. So this is Vantage Extreme. I am first out of 4, so it's not really that this is a big achievement. I also don't have a Vantage performance score because like I've made one, but 3DMark requires the verification links now, and I kind of forgot to save that one for the other score, so I didn't upload it. I guess I'm gonna rerun it at some point. I wanted to do it in the session, and I also wanted to run Firestrike Extreme and maybe Time Spy, but one issue with the card is you can't run it for too long. If you run it for too long, which is like over 1.5 hours straight, the memory just gets very unstable. I don't know why yet, but you just can't run anywhere near the settings it can at the beginning of the session. And beginning, I mean once the memory chips are like warmed up. But yeah, so that's the Vantage score. It is lower clocks because this is not from the same session. This is from one that I have had after my initial Firestrike session, but before the one that has the new Firestrike and the 3DMark 11 scores. So I was running 1320 and 1720 here. lower than my first Firestrike score. Mostly because like this was also at normal ambient, it wasn't cold ambient. And also Vantage is a much longer test. So you can't run as high clocks in it, even though I think this isn't maxed out. I think this could run more than I did. But I mean, there's just 4 people in the ranking, and I think I'm leading by quite a bit. Because I think I'm the only one using the timing tweaks. Yeah, so I'm leading by like 2,000 points. Oh, well, or like 1.3 thousand. Like second in place is he's running a 5950X, damn. Yeah, his memory is, his clocks are also just lower. So maybe he is running memory tweak, just lower clocks. Huh. Well, whatever. I don't really care much about Vantage. Because, at least the extreme one is not really competitive, so I don't think I'll bother rerunning extreme. I might bother rerunning the other one. And now we get to 3D Mark 11. So this is entry, 4th out of 45. It's a little bit more than 4, but like, I mean, Firestrike has like 103 people in it, and I'm better there than here. But still a decent score in my opinion. So yeah, here I'm back at the full clocks with cold ambience of 1355 cores, 1740 mem. Yeah. That's the entry score. Interestingly, like if you look at the other two, this is the one where I got second, which is extreme. And here here my ranking is kind of bad at 8th for performance. You can't see I'm running 1355, 1740 mem on all of these, just like I am in Firestrike. Usually, for 3D Mark 11, especially extreme and performance, you end up having to lower clocks somewhat, just like in Vantage, because 11 is a much longer test than Firestrike. Like, Firestrike has 2 graphics tests, 1 CPU, 1 combined. 11 has 4 graphics tests, 1 CPU, 1 combined. And Vantage, I don't remember how many graphics tests Vantage has, but they're much longer. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised when I found out that this card can just run full clocks in 11 as well. And I think the reason why it can run full clocks, at least for core, is because I did a couple runs where I had like Reaver Tuner and MS Afterburner on to show me the overlay of temperature. And what I found out is basically my load temperature doesn't change at all. It's the same at the beginning of the benchmark and the same at the end of the benchmark. So putting my radiator in my window to suck in cold air from the outside seems to be very consistent, which I think is the reason why I could run just max clocks. Because like if you have a long benchmark, what happens is your card heats up more than in a short benchmark and you end up crashing because of heat. Which, because my cooling is so consistent in this case, just doesn't happen, it seems. So I'm very happy that I got max clocks in 11. By the time I tried to rerun Vantage, the session was too long. Like, I think you can... no, never mind, I made all the screenshots at the same time. Yeah, I just saved the scores and then make screenshots later. But yeah, I started at like 11 PM. So my bench session was like 2.5, like 3 hours. Admittedly, the first hour was just like setting up and getting things done. And then the last 2 hours were like actually benching. And this was after I like about 19 minutes into the bench session, I started running into the memory clock stability issue. So I couldn't run Vantage, I couldn't run Firestrike Extreme, couldn't run Time Spy. So I just, yeah, rearranged stuff and took the screenshots, and then I bought at 2 a.m. I finished. So yeah. So I might be rerunning, I don't think I will be rerunning Vantage Extreme, but Vantage Performance, just because I don't have a score for that at all. And I think if I get to have another one like these where I can run full clocks, yeah, I could get a really decent score for Vantage. So, yeah. And I guess that's pretty much it. So, yeah, this is the old one. So I think this is a pretty decent score for 7950s. I'm finally making something that's worthwhile. Only took me like 2 years. But yeah, I am finally getting into like podium positions on an HWBot, which is, I mean, and at the end of the day, it's just internet points, but like it's nice to have that. Especially with the history of this card. Like, this card, you might remember it from the first time I showed it. This high-side MOSFET up here was literally blown to pieces. And what I did was I actually put a low-side MOSFET there. Admittedly a very, very expensive and high-end low-side MOSFET, but still I'm using a low-side as a high-side. And so far it's worked out. It even runs 700 kilohertz switching frequency like a champ, but like, yeah, if something goes wrong, I'm expecting that MOSFET to do weird things. So like, yeah, I got the card with literally a high side blown to pieces. It failed open, so the card just worked with 5 out of 6 VCore phases. And then eventually I bought some like MOSFET replacements. I put that high side on there, and then I also added, you can't really see it because I glued these heatsinks on there. But the card, like the memory VRAM, the card only came with one low side and then a second pad empty. I added some more low sides to that as well. So like the VRM on this is now really, really cold. Like even at 700 kilohertz switching frequency, which 300 kilohertz is stock for this card, and even at 700 kilohertz, it was at like 65 degrees. So like, yeah. This VRM is running really, really cool. The efficiency, well, at like 700 kilohertz, my efficiency is about 70%, so it kind of sucks. But yeah, like that VRM, it shouldn't be a problem, except for that high side maybe blowing up. Like that might be an issue. Like, yeah, that high side up there, that might blow up. And yeah. Like, this is the only 7950 that I have. And I got this as dead because the high side was blown up and the heatsink it had was just broken. Like, the fans were missing, thermal pads were missing. It was shutting down because of that, because VRM had no cooling and was hitting over temperature protection. Like, yeah. I'm really happy for this card that, like, it was literal trash when I got it, and then now it's like getting these scores. Like, I got really lucky with the core. Like, the core on this is pretty good. The memory is not really like MFR. Like, it just loses to AFR. But I think you can only get AFR on the newer cards, like my Matrix has it. Which the newer cards have worse cores, so it's kind of like you have to. There's no like ideal balance where you have both good memory and good cores. It seems like, I don't know, maybe there's a card like that, but I haven't seen AFR on one of the OG cards yet. And the OG cards are the ones that have the good cores. So yeah, but then again, Lumi, who's currently holding the world record for 7970s, he is using a Lightning, which is using one of the OG cores, and he also has MFR, and he's like clocking that memory really, really high. Admittedly, he's on liquid nitrogen, so it seems while they have like negative code scaling at ambient, if you take them sub-zero, they might actually get better, because he's running like very, very high memory. liquid nitrogen. And he is using a custom BIOS, which I think has also memory straps modded, because otherwise he wouldn't be so far ahead of everyone else. So yeah. So I mean, yeah, the memory on my card is nothing special. It's like pretty average, I think. Like it's 1375 timings at 1740 megahertz. Like my Matrix is running both more aggressive timings and higher clocks. So the memory on this is not really anything special, but I am that core is pretty good. Like considering I'm not chilled, that's pretty good. Like just 20 degrees load, I think that's really, really good. So yeah. I am making progress. I am actually getting some decent scores done. I can't quite say what's next. It could be modding this card and rerunning it. It could be rerunning the Matrix with like cold ambient as well. It could be something completely different. I am very much going to get dry ice this month. So I'm gonna have my first dry ice session. I don't know yet which card I'm gonna use. I wanted to use my GTX 580 Direct CO2, just because that card has been very consistent and very fun to work with. But now where I've like run Tahitis a lot, I really like these cards. Like, I've stayed away from AMD cards for a long time just because the drivers are so annoying to work with. But now I finally figured out how to do it. I really run I1 Tahitis more. I think to run the 750 on dry ice, I have to solve the voltage range issue, which probably is just hard mod the thing. The Matrix I could just run dry ice on, but I think the base plate will interfere with the dry ice port. But I think that card, yeah, I could run it with dry ice. So I guess, yeah, of the cards who just need to be insulated and are good to go cold, otherwise are just the 7970 Matrix and the 580 Direct CO2, because, well, actually the 580 still needs its PEX rail modded, because undervolting PEX on GTX 580s can help you with core stability, and I haven't done that yet on that card. So it's not completely ready to go cold yet. So if I guess I'm gonna run the 7970 Matrix then, if I don't wanna mod anything. Yeah, but enough of that. This is about the 7950, and yeah, I am very satisfied with the scores it has received. And yeah, there's gonna be more. I don't know how soon there's gonna be more, but there's gonna be more. And yeah, that should be it. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And until next time, goodbye.